Hello everyone and welcome back to Alternative Apex. We are here at the Interlagos circuit for round 15 of the 2022 Formula 1 season for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Once again, sunny skies over this great racetrack today. Just like in Mexico, the skies look nice and clear, the weather is lovely and hot, and hopefully at least the weather will be staying away. But here in Brazil, of course, it is very unpredictable as we now see the undulating track that is the Interlagos circuit in Sao Paulo. Quite the amazing circuit with quite the history in Formula 1. But let's see what history is written today, as let's have a look at the starting grid. On the front row, we have Sergio Perez and Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton again starting on the front row of the grid. Perez starting on pole position. Then there's Max Verstappen and Esteban Ocon, with George Russell and Nico Hülkenberg behind them. Then on 7th and 8th, we have Mick Schumacher and Valtteri Bottas, with Charles Leclerc with a grid penalty just ahead of Pascal Wehrlein. Then it is Daniel Ricciardo and Kevin Magnussen, with Yuki Tsunoda and Lance Stroll behind, both of whom have a grid penalty. Same goes to the next row of Zhou Guanyu and Nicholas Latifi, as then on the next row of the grid we have Sebastian Vettel and Carlos Sainz, recently out of the title fight. Sainz now starting 18th today, ahead of Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris, and a lot of these guys back here have grid penalties like recent races. And on the final row we have Alexander Albon and Pierre Gasly as they bring up the back of today's grid. Now we go down to the actual grid and some big news to announce before today's race. Well, two pieces of big news to announce. First of all is that Sergio Perez, Formula 1 driver, starting from pole position today, will be retiring at the end of the current season. After the very challenging campaign that he's had this year, despite sitting third in the championship ahead of his teammate, he's decided that this year will be his last, saying that he just wants to spend more time with his family. And whilst he believes that yes, he could have been a Formula 1 champion if he'd given himself another 10 years, or maybe if he'd had better chances in the past 2 years, maybe he could have been a Formula 1 champion, and he believes he was good enough, and he still is good enough. But he knows that Formula 1, it's a hard life in Formula 1, and that he decides that he would rather have the security of spending more time with his family than risking his life in Formula 1 for a championship that is looking quite unlikely with the recent struggles that Red Bull has found themselves in. That is the biggest news for today's race, although another small bit of news is that there will be new engine regulations for the 2023 season, so that could potentially mix up the pecking order for next year. However, no final details have been announced on that rule, so all is still a bit up in the air on that one, but we do know it's coming, so do be aware of that regulation change. But now it is time for the Brazilian Grand Prix, as the final few cars line up on the grid ahead of today's race. It is almost time to go racing here in Brazil. The lights are coming on ahead of the drivers, and we are racing in Brazil there. It's a good start from Sergio Perez, who's immediately going to come over to cover off Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton's going to switch back to the outside as Ocon got a good start as well there. Up into 4th there, racing with George Russell. It's Hamilton and Verstappen side by side. Where have we seen this one before? Racing down through turns 2 and 3. Hamilton up back into 2nd place there. Had to defend from Verstappen, but Perez has got a big lead already in this race. But Hamilton is not going to want to see that. He will immediately be on the charge to try and regain that track position. Then we have Charles Leclerc fighting his way up the order here ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Then there is Kevin Magnussen battling away with Pascal Wehrlein just outside the top 10 there in the Porsche. As we go back to the front, it is Sergio Perez who continues to lead here on lap 1 of the race. The Red Bull driver in his final 2 races of the season now is leading here in Brazil. Daniel Ricciardo on the back of Wehrlein now. Going to go for the move down the inside of turn 4, late on the brakes. Daniel Ricciardo, we know it's his favourite style of overtakes, is that late braking, but it looks like it's going to be a tough overtake here, or as I say, that Wehrlein looks like maybe backs out of that one. Ricciardo up into 11th place and on the edges of the points paying positions now in the McLaren car there, as Magnussen will be the next car up ahead of him on the road. Ricciardo really going to be pushing here to try and get up into the points. And immediately he is on the back of Kevin Magnussen, the McLaren driver, looking to try and make something happen here in this race. Going to go to the outside of turn 4, not quite able to make it happen, or is he? Magnussen gets a little bit caught up on the apex, and that's going to allow Ricciardo to cruise around the outside there of the Haas driver. But now with the inside line, it's going to be a tough overtake. Squeezes his way through on that high-speed corner. Wehrlein looking to try and pounce on one or both of these drivers. Going to go down the inside of Magnussen, taking away 11th place there from the Haas driver. And Magnussen will drop all the way from 10th down to 12th here, as Wehrlein will get around the outside of Kevin Magnussen. Ricciardo up into the points paying positions there, as Verline manages his way through that part of the lap. As we now look back up to the front, Lewis Hamilton is hunting down Sergio Perez here for the lead of the Brazilian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, an honorary Brazilian citizen, looking to win arguably in home territory, you could say. He's going to go down the inside of Sergio Perez down in turn 1. They bang wheels, but Perez gets a better exit as they go through turn 2. Hamilton then sweeps around the outside, the inside of turn 3 now, and is ahead as they make their way down towards turn 4. But Verstappen and Perez are coming right back at him here with DRS as they break into turn 4. Verstappen down the inside of Lewis Hamilton. We've seen that end badly in the past, but Hamilton will hold on to the lead there ahead of Max Verstappen, who gets up into second. Russell now on the back of Perez, and Perez loses 2 places there in the matter of just 1 sector. So it's not quite how he wanted that one to go for Sergio Perez, but he's putting up a strong fight so far in this race. If we look further down the order, we've got Hülkenberg battling away with Mick Schumacher and Charles Leclerc. See, they make their way through turn 4, and Schumacher's going to go slightly wide there, and that is going to allow Hülkenberg to the inside Leclerc. Probably going to try and capitalise on these two battling up ahead of him, right behind the pair as they go into turn 5 and 6 here. Making their way up towards turn 7 now. Hülkenberg ahead of Schumacher for P6. Leclerc just behind the Haas driver, looking to try and get himself further up the order as well. The reigning champion in Formula 1 now is going to be all over the back of the Haas driver down the main straight on lap 11 of the race, ready to start lap 12. Charles Leclerc, as we reach the 1/3 point of the race, going to try and make the move here. For 7th place, going to go to the inside, or is he going to try and go to the outside? He's going to go to the inside, but he gets blocked off by Schumacher there. But that is going to give Leclerc the chance to get the better exit out of turn 1, then turn 2, and then turn 3. The center S providing a great chance for Leclerc to get the power down and flex the muscles of that Ferrari Formula 1 car. He's going to go down the inside into turn 4, and Charles Leclerc is up into 7th position. Schumacher tries to fight that one back just a little bit, but isn't quite capable of doing so. Charles Leclerc up into 7th in this race, and Hülkenberg will be the next victim for him, as now we see on lap 14. He's already in the DRS, in the slipstream, and ready to power his way past the Porsche. Uses all of those to his advantage, and down the inside, just like Schumacher. Hülkenberg is going to put up a fight there, but not quite as much as Schumacher. And that is Leclerc up into P6 now, as he looks to continue his moves up the order now. As Russell is on the back of Sergio Perez. Perez dropping back from the top 2 in this race now. It's a shame to see, as we know his career coming to an end in Formula 1. It is Russell attacking Sergio Perez into turn 1, just like the way Hamilton did. They're going to bang wheels in turn 1. Now side by side through turn 2, and just like Lewis Hamilton, Russell powers his way past the Red Bull, but Perez is going to fight back here to the outside as they make their way down towards turn 4, but Russell has the DRS as he will make his way into the braking zone ahead of the Red Bull, and that is Russell up into 3rd place in this race now. Nice bit of racecraft there from George Russell after his win last time out. He's looking to back that up with another podium and maybe try and catch the top 2 in this race. As racing further back down the order for 5th place, Esteban Ocon versus Charles Leclerc. These two battling away into the middle sector of the lap now. Leclerc using his Ferrari to his advantage or around the outside. That extra downforce coming in very handy there, and will get past the Alpine of Esteban Ocon, who drops back to 6th place now. Hamilton up in the lead of the race has still got Max Verstappen right behind him as they both peel off into the pit lane. Hamilton leads Verstappen into the pits for their one and only pit stop in today's race. Hamilton into the pit box first, switches over to those hard compound tyres. Decent pit stop from Mercedes, as now we see George Russell a lap later. He is going to be coming into the pits now. The second of the Mercedes cars looking to try and perhaps overcut his way a little bit closer to the top 2 in this race. George Russell pulling his way in to the pit lane and now into his pit box as Sergio Perez follows him in as well. Let's see how good is this pit stop. A little bit slow as well. Not great pit stops from Mercedes, I must say, but not absolutely awful, so I won't lose too much from that. Maybe got held up a little bit by some cars entering the pits as well. So Russell will leave the pit lane comfortably behind the top 2 there of Verstappen and Hamilton. Russell comes out in 3rd place there. Perez will come out in 4th. But up at the front, it is still Lewis Hamilton who leads ahead of Max Verstappen here. It's like 2021 all over again. Mercedes versus Red Bull here in Interlagos. But for now, it is Hamilton ahead of Verstappen. Carlos Sainz on his tough day so far. Started 18th, up into 13th so far. Now on the back of Yuki Tsunoda for that 12th position. You go to the outside of the AlphaTauri driver into the braking zone for turn 1. Carlos Sainz will go all the way around the outside. Now he's going to have the inside for turn 2. Can he pull this move off? Not quite. Tsunoda keeps his foot in it around the outside. But now Carlos Sainz will have the DRS down towards turn 4. Or will he? Yes, he will. But that is Magnussen attacking him as well, as Magnussen nearly looks to the inside of Tsunoda. Tsunoda had to cover that one off quite late there. Some brave driving from this group of cars. Sainz wants to get himself away from this group. He knows they're clearly very aggressive drivers back here. He's up into 12th place now. Head off Yuki Tsunoda and Kevin Magnussen. Fernando Alonso in 15th there, as Pascal Wehrlein is now having to defend from the Ferrari driver. Carlos Sainz is on the back of the Porsche, is going to go to the inside as they make their way towards turn 4, up into 11th place is Carlos Sainz, as he looks to break his way into the point-paying positions. One more place and he will be in the top 10, so looking to try and get something away from today's race. But he is now ahead of the Porsche of Pascal Wehrlein, who is not having the greatest of days, but isn't doing too bad either. Now we see Charles Leclerc on the back of Sergio Perez with DRS open. Perez not having a fun day at all. Charles Leclerc is going to send one to the inside. That's a very brave move, but Perez leaves the room. Charles Leclerc up the inside of the Red Bull continues to make this move. Perez is still just about there on his rear right. Going to keep his nose in as they go into the long right-hander, but Charles Leclerc will get ahead of the Red Bull racing car of Sergio Perez. And Perez drops down to 5th place after starting right at the front of this race. Now, as we look down to the battle for the final points-paying position, Bottas is going to have to defend from Carlos Sainz here in the Ferrari, but I don't know there'll be much he can do as they break into turn 4. Sainz on the inside of the Alfa Romeo gets that move done nice and easily, and up into the points goes Carlos Sainz. Next car on his list of victims will be Nico Hülkenberg and then Mick Schumacher, who runs up in 8th place. On lap 34 now, we're going to see Carlos Sainz on the back of Nico Hülkenberg as they go into turn 1. Hülkenberg goes very wide there, misses the corner entirely, narrowly keeps it on the racetrack, and that is Sainz given an easy overtake up into 9th place. Next car will be Schumacher, but with only a lap left after this one, not going to be easy to catch up to the Haas driver there. Hülkenberg will just look to try and hold on to that final points-paying position. Sainz on the final lap is going to have a chance here at Mick Schumacher. He's got the run towards turn 1. Will he send one to the inside? Not quite going to go for it here. Going to sit behind the Haas into turn 1, playing it safe. Knows that he could get the run down towards turn 4. Out of the centre as he goes. Here, riding on board with Carlos Sainz, we get a feel for the difference DRS makes in the slipstream. He's going to go to the inside, or he's going to go to the outside. Great bit of racing here. Carlos Sainz very brave to the outside of turn 4. Banging side pod to wheel there. That was a bit of risky moving there from Mick Schumacher, going a little bit wide. Sainz now still on the outside, but that will give him the inside for the next corner, crucially. He will be on the inside, trying to take this position away from Mick Schumacher, trying to take 8th place away from the Haas driver, and up into 8th goes Carlos Sainz. As on the final lap of the race, he gets that move done today. Nice bit of racing there. But up at the front, it is Lewis Hamilton who has managed the pressure from Max Verstappen, the driver he knows all too well. And Lewis Hamilton, 15 consecutive seasons with a race win, make that 16. Lewis Hamilton wins the Brazilian Grand Prix ahead of Max Verstappen, and then George Russell takes 3rd place there, making it a double podium for the Mercedes team. Charles Leclerc recovers up to 4th today. Sergio Perez will take 5th for Red Bull, disappointing after starting from pole position. But there we go, Lewis Hamilton is your race winner once again in Formula 1. It's been a little while for the great 7-time world champion, but he is back on the top step of the podium. Lewis Hamilton is a winner again in Formula 1, and Mercedes, 2 wins in a row, really look like they could well be back now. The Mercedes team, I'm sure, excited about their recent progress. Abu Dhabi could be another test for the team, though, to see if they can make it 3 in a row. Although Charles Leclerc, he has only ever, at most this season, has gone winless for 2 races at a time. He'll have to win in Abu Dhabi to make sure that record continues, but Lewis Hamilton is your winner today as he makes his way out onto the podium, waving to the fans here in Brazil. Very popular in Brazil, despite the events of 2008. I think maybe some fans haven't forgiven him by that. I imagine a lot of fans haven't forgiven him for that, but I imagine a lot of them maybe have warmed to him over the years. Lewis Hamilton winning here in Brazil and spraying the champagne. I think Verstappen will be disappointed to finish 2nd today, but at the same time it was a very strong drive today as his teammate really fell back quite quickly. Verstappen stayed right there in the fight, so very strong drive from the Dutchman as well. Russell completing the podium to catch those guys at the end. Very good racing from all of them up front. Here are your official results for this weekend. Of course, this was a sprint race weekend, so if you're confused by why there wasn't a sprint race at the beginning of this video, it was because this race was, well, filled with a lot of weird glitches, and not just the sprint, the Grand Prix as well didn't save properly, so there is obviously, as you've seen, footage of the Grand Prix today, so just a quick explanation. So, sorry there was no footage of the sprint race, although if you want to see the sprint race results, you can see them on your screen as well there on the left column. But there are all the points given out to all the drivers this weekend. Of course, Hamilton on top ahead of Verstappen, and George Russell ahead of Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez in 5th overall this weekend. Now moving on to the Drivers' Championship standings, of course Leclerc still at the top, the champion of the season already. He is unbeatable now, as Perez sits just a single point ahead of his teammate Max Verstappen, so that's going to go all the way down to the final race, the Battle of the Rebels. Of course, Perez in his final season in Formula 1. He will be looking to try and stay ahead of his teammate there, but I think he knows he's got quite the competition to be up against. As then it is George Russell in 5th in the championship ahead of Lewis Hamilton, and Valtteri Bottas, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon, and Lando Norris running out the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship standings. Then it is Nico Hülkenberg, Kevin Magnussen, Pascal Wehrlein, and Mick Schumacher all in the top 14 in the Drivers' Championship standings there. Porsche sitting 11th and 13th so far this season, both over 30 points, so a good season for that new team in Formula 1. Now here is a look at the constructors' standings after today's race. Ferrari, of course, leading ahead of Red Bull and Mercedes. Alpine still sitting pretty safely in that 4th position ahead of Alfa Romeo, who continue to sit fairly comfortably ahead of Porsche. McLaren are posing a bit of a threat to Porsche now. They're only 8 points behind, and with their recent form, could definitely take that position away in Abu Dhabi, so that's another battle to keep an eye out on. As then it is Haas in 8th in the constructors' ahead of AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, and then Williams at the bottom. So that was it for today's race here in Alternative Apex. I hope you all enjoyed it. A bit of a throwback to 2021 with Mercedes versus Red Bull battling it out for the win in Interlagos. Very entertaining stuff up front. And I mean, happy to see Hamilton keep his streak up of winning a race in every season he has competed. Be interesting to see how that plays out next season. But yes, that is it for today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more. Not far away from the end of the season. One race left now, of course. And after that race, we'll go into the 2023 season. So, could be very exciting. There were driver transfers, a mixed up pecking order. Who knows what might happen next year? Of course, with the regulation change as well, we know there'll at least be one new driver at Red Bull, so who knows what else could happen next year. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss out, and of course, not going to miss out on Abu Dhabi next time out for the final race of 2022. But thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.